Hey everyone, I just want to say a few words about a great game sitting right at the crossroads of real-time strategy and role-playing game, Spellforce 3. The first thing that grabs you is the gorgeous atmosphere. It wraps around you completely and pulls you deep into a wonderful fantasy world. There's an interesting, epic story here, beautiful large-scale locations, and vivid, distinctive characters. The graphics are a bit dated by now, but still easy on the eyes. From the very first seconds, there's zero doubt that this is epic fantasy, packed with powerful, wise mages, valiant warriors, and terrifying monsters. That grand atmosphere is backed up by fantastic sound. The music is just incredible, and the English voice acting is so good that it feels like you can actually see the face and expressions of whoever you're talking to. They really nailed it. The story is excellent too. It's epic, but at the same time genuinely mature. You'll often run into shades of gray morality, where you can understand the motivations of not just the heroes, but the villains as well. The narrative isn't afraid to raise heavy philosophical questions that humanity is still wrestling with today. This story was clearly written by some seriously well-educated people. The game is a pleasant surprise. What's waiting for you is a harsh, at times brutal, epic but intelligent tale. I won't say it's flawless in every respect, but it's definitely not shallow, and it isn't afraid to tackle serious questions. I played through the main campaign as well as the Soul Harvest and Fallen God campaigns, and I was really impressed by the quality of the story and how well the characters were fleshed out. The characters here don't just have different personalities, they have entirely different philosophical worldviews. The game brands itself as both in real-time strategy and in role-playing game, but for me it's first and foremost an role-playing game with real-time strategy elements. There's a global map with locations. There aren't a ton of them, but it's enough. Each new story mission plays out on a large location and often starts off as a proper party-based role-playing game. Your party runs around the map, picks up and completes side quests, visits points of interest, and finds all sorts of artifacts and secrets. Then at some point during a story quest, the real-time strategy layer can kick in, where you have to build up your own base and tear down the enemies. There are different character classes, and you level them up. With each new level, you raise your attributes and unlock new skills. There are plenty of classes, each with unique abilities and skill trees. There are quite a lot of skills, honestly, maybe even too many active ones, but overall, it's all done pretty well. In the main campaign, you can realistically hit level 25 to 27 by the end. If you're planning to play the Soul Harvest expansion, think ahead about installing a mod that lifts the level 20 cap. You don't need to bother with this in the original campaign where the cap is 50. Otherwise, you'll spend the last 15% of the game with no progression at all. A bit of a fly in the ointment. You can also find various artifacts here. There are green, blue, purple, orange items, secrets scattered across the map with all kinds of loot, and side quests with rewards. There's also collecting parts and crafting artifacts. There's also a hub base and companions, each with their own skill trees and one secret affinity skill. You can talk with your companions, and every one of them definitely has something to share with you. You can bring up to 3 companions along with you on missions. Of course, all the role-playing elements I mentioned are a bit simplified compared to a full-blown RPG. But even in this form, they do their job well enough that the end result is a pretty solid, if occasionally streamlined, story-driven role-playing game. And here, maybe not everyone will agree, but for me the game's main weakness is its real-time strategy layer, which very often has poor synergy with the role-playing game side. The real-time strategy part itself is fairly simple. You need to capture and hold key points to build outposts and gather resources. Those resources then go toward extra buildings, hiring better units, and making upgrades. Your job is to grab as many points as fast as possible and build your own outposts. Then you destroy the enemy outposts on the points and build your own, gradually squeezing the enemy out and cutting off their ability to gather resources and recruit troops, until you've finally got enough strength to capture and wipe out their base. I played on the second hardest difficulty, and the moments where I had to develop a base and play strategy honestly annoyed me quite a lot, especially in the first half of the game, before your heroes are leveled up enough to rush down an enemy base with a squad of 4 almost without an army. If you play the strategic mode for a long time, then on higher difficulties, the enemy eventually starts attacking way too aggressively from multiple directions, and you end up spreading huge armies thin between key outposts. And at one fine moment, you start to realize that everything around you is almost uncontrollable chaos, and that really spoils the experience. It's also worth keeping in mind that there are simply too many active hero abilities for a strategy game. For 4 characters, it's way too much. In single player, there isn't even a proper pause to plan out your casts. There's only a slowdown on the Alt key. So in the chaos of battle, especially when you're juggling heroes, troops, and base development all at once, it's basically impossible to properly land single target abilities on an enemy unit. You end up relying on perks, passive auras, and 3 to 4 abilities like Mass Heal, Resurrect, AoE Fireball, Raise Undead, and so on, the ones you'll actually have time to use, and that deal the most damage to the enemy army. Another small but really annoying issue is the lack of a time stop during dialogues. In the Fallen God DLC, this problem is already gone. When you need to develop your base and a story dialogue suddenly pops up, just remember, while you're running your mouth, the enemy is building up their base, planning and launching attacks. Very often in those moments, you can't properly take in the text because you're rushing to read it fast and skip ahead. So here's a tip right away. Knock out as many side quests as possible the moment you enter a location, because you never know whether the strategic part will kick in once you go down the story path. Overall, I'd sooner recommend the Spellforce 3 campaign and its story add-ons to role-playing games fans than to strategy fans. And here's why. If you come here for a deep, well-crafted story, living characters with their own philosophical convictions, and an atmospheric fantasy world, the game gives you all of that in spades and leaves a great impression. But if you're expecting a full-fledged, polished strategy in the spirit of the classic real-time strategy games, you might come away disappointed. That's exactly where the game's central contradiction lies. An ambitious attempt to fuse 2 genres that works beautifully on the role-playing game side and noticeably limps on the real-time strategy side. And yet, despite all these rough edges, I personally walked away really satisfied. Spellforce 3 is one of those cases where the game's strengths shine so brightly that they more than make up for its flaws. And that's exactly why I'd urge anyone who values smart, heartfelt fantasy to give it a chance. That's all from me. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching. Play good games, stay healthy, and may peaceful skies always be above your head.
Wake up! What in blazes is wrong with you? Where am I? Are you serious? What does it look like?